how much time, like percentage-wise, do you spend in the Bay with like a director, a producer, a writer, or whatever? And what are those relationships like?
On Breaking Bad? Because Breaking Bad is a very different animal than any other show. Is it Breaking Bad that's a question?
Can it be a two-part question?
I can try to answer. On Breaking Bad, what happens is Breaking Bad was a very, very different animal. The whole post-process is different. The way that it was different was Vince Gilligan, I don't know how he did it, but he got the studio and the network to agree to let him be in the writer's room the whole time that they were breaking their stories. And then pretty much on the last episode that they were shooting, that's when that script would be delivered. So he was in the writer's room for months before they started shooting, and then right up until the last episode would start shooting, that's when they would deliver that last script. Once that episode stopped shooting, 8 days later, he'd probably take maybe a few days off, and then he'd start in to edit all of his producer's cuts at, basically in the next 13 weeks. So, and that doesn't happen anywhere else. I've never seen it anywhere else. But basically, he would start in on like episode 501, like in, let's say, I think it was like, I want to say like April or something. Let's say April, and he would work for a week on 501. He would do the teaser in Act 1 on Monday, Act 2 on Tuesday, Act 3 on Wednesday. Act 4, he would have a spotting session in the morning that would last till about 1 o'clock. Then he'd come in and start working on Act 4, and then usually Act 4 would drag into Friday, and he would finish. And that's how Breaking Bad went. And then the next Monday, it'd start on 502. And that's how it would work. I've never seen that anywhere else. I've never seen any studio or network give them the money to do that anywhere else, but that's how he got to work. I actually got into editorial even when I was a production assistant, was I realized that in editorial, no matter who you are, you spend an inordinate amount of hours with people who are really, really high up, like producers, writers, and when you spend that many hours with them, you start to talk to them about their personal lives, you eat lunch with them, you eat dinner with them, you start to talk about things just because it takes time for the editor to sit there and make something work. So a lot of times when I was, like an assistant, part of my job with certain people was to keep them occupied while the editor kind of like made this stuff work. So we would play video games, we would talk about movies, we would talk about books, stuff like that. And what I realized is that A, you work a long, long, long time longer than production. And B, you are constantly rubbing elbows with people you would never think that you would rub elbows with. And you're developing personal relationships with these people who are, that anybody else in production would not necessarily have these relationships. And I mean, I have like cultivated so many relationships, even back to when I was a production assistant, that I am like so happy about and so proud of, and it's because I was working in the editing room for so long.
Kelley?
I'm sure this varies from episode to episode, and certain scenes and sequences take priority, but when you get it all, where do you start?
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
On an episode, I'm just going on the assumption you just kind of get it all at once.
No.
Wow.
That's why I was like, huh? Okay.
Well, then I guess that's.
I was like, no.
Question
They start shooting like they shoot for 8 days. Most shows will shoot for 8 days, and we shot in Albuquerque, and we shot on film, which is like I don't think it's done yet. The Walking Dead actually shoots on film too. I think it might be one of the last things. But what would happen is, let's say they start shooting on Monday. That was their day one. After half a day, they would do what they call a film break, and send everything they'd done to Los Angeles, and it would be processed at Photochem in Burbank, and then telecined at Photochem's own telecined facility called Keep Me Posted. At that point, this was Tuesday, usually around Tuesday afternoon, we'd start getting that footage. Once we start getting that, and if I have a complete scene, I'll start working on it. And that would follow 8 days, for 8 days. So, I'm getting basically, the first day I'd get a half a day. The next day I'd get a day and a half, and like that. So I'm working constantly. There's no way that we could keep up the schedule that we keep up if we waited until all 8 days, were shot. And if there's any problem, we'd never know. So we have to be seeing this stuff every day. Does that answer your?
Anybody? Okay. All right, I'm going to go a bit to the front here. Finally, somebody has the courage in the front to take the microphone.
You've answered most of my questions just from what you've said, but you mentioned the Roomba scene where shot from the fireplace. What if you don't have that footage? What if you need footage to tell your side of the story? Can you make a request for, I need a Roomba to come across or something like that?
Well, for a Roomba to actually come across, it would have needed to be scripted. They would have to be ready for that. I wouldn't normally ask for the Roomba if it wasn't already in the narrative. But the thing about asking for, I mean, a lot of times on any show, if you need something to make it work, like an insert or something like that, you can ask for footage. Asking for something that's specifically designed and like sort of you're going into the world of, you know, I'm the director now and this is what I want, not so much. But, you know, if I need, like the other day, God, I better catch myself. I can't like spoil anything. Other day, I needed to make a scene work that was, you know, I had a shot where it was a wider shot and the only action that I had was from the back and it took a while to get that action. And what I really needed was I needed somebody to grab something off a table. I don't like inserts at all and I don't like slugging for them. But in this case, I was like, look, you know what? If I just had this person grabbing this off the table, I can compress time really quickly. So my director on that it was on The Walking Dead, and my director is Greg Nicotero, who is incredibly talented. He's the guy that does all the zombie makeup, by the way. He's an executive producer on The Walking Dead, and he is an incredibly talented director. And, you know, I felt a little, you know, kind of like, should I ask him for this? I don't know what he's planning. But you know what? I called him up and I said, listen, I know you're going to do another insert at this location. Would you mind having this person grab this? And he goes, oh, yeah, just send me a clip of what you're looking for. You know, so we send him everything around that and then kind of slug and say, this is what I want. I haven't seen what he shot, but I heard that he shot it, so.
We have 10 minutes left.
Yeah. See, I told you.
I know.
Questions.
It's really amazing. Okay. All right. You and the long hair.
Thank you so much for coming down here. You are a hero. I think you do wonderful work. One of my favorite things about Breaking Bad are the use of pregnant pauses and just the silences after, you know, one of the characters speak. I mean, the Hank-Walt confrontation from, you know, this season premiere, I think is a perfect example of that.
Tread lightly? Is that the tread lightly thing?
Yes, yes. I mean, just especially when the garage door closes. I mean, I could geek out for a while about that. But what's the process like of finding those rhythms, like knowing how long to hold onto a shot, and how do you keep from getting desensitized, you know, as you're spending hours and hours crafting those scenes, knowing, is this going on for too long, or, you know, like, how do you find that rhythm?
I don't really know. I mean, I don't think there's any set way. I think it's just something that you feel. The cool thing about Breaking Bad is that you never had to worry about this whole, you know, there's a lot of shows, mostly, you know, not on cable, where everybody's going to be talking all the time. And then the other thing, too, is a lot of times you'll have producers and writers and people up above them that are afraid to let people be quiet. I mean, people in normal life have to have quiet moments of reflection, you know, or something, because, you know, that's how you know, keep your sanity and keep your life together and figure out what your next move is. So that's the one thing that I loved about Breaking Bad is they were always brave, and it was never a problem to let silence happen, because silence is important, especially in a confrontation like that. I don't remember, I mean, there's times when you can lose your objectivity when you look at something too long, but I don't think I've ever had that problem with just silences. What usually will happen, though, is in an editor's cut, there may be way more. You know, I may feel it in my, you know, personally way more, but usually editors and directors' cuts are kind of long, and we still have to get the show down to time. So what'll happen is, as you start to trim things, those pauses, they're still there, but they get shortened up quite a bit.
Another question. What do we got here? We go. How come it's all the guys are asking questions?
In television, the DGA has rules where the director has to get 4 days on their show. They have to get 4 days to deliver their show. So, hopefully, I like actually when the director comes into the room. Way easier, way better to gauge what they want, how they want to do it, and then they're not only just relying on you to fix mistake, something that they didn't do. It's like, I like it when they come in because then you feel like it's a collaboration rather than, I'm not sure, this isn't working for me, and what do you think? And I'm like, well, I just did the editor's cut. Well, that's what I thought, so what did you have in mind? But they get 4 days in television. And television, you have to understand, is really more of a writer's medium. The writer is king in television, and usually the writer is a producer. And more often a showrunner. So it's really their thing. In features, director, it's a whole different game. TV and features, whole different thing as far as, and I don't know if there's any kind of limit in as far as the DGA is concerned with features. I mean, features can, they can work. I remember, talking to Kevin Tent last year. He was here and he works with Alexander Payne for months, so it just depends on who the players are. Okay, the second part of your question had to do with storytelling?
Yeah, being an editor and how much you feel like,
I feel, my personal feeling, and this is just me personally, I think that an editor has to be absolutely incredible as far as understanding story and being able to understand symbolism, metaphor. I really respect editors who read. I hope editors do their part as far as, understanding. One thing that I've said to definitely people, definitely my assistants, and definitely people at The Walking Dead, friends of mine at The Walking Dead, and also at Breaking Bad, is that there's a lot of directors that are really talented out there, and a lot of directors who can shoot your script like crazy. But what you really want them to do is be able to shoot the story. And the script and the story can be very, very different. There's a lot of subtext that's going on in your script, in your story, that, it's like you may have an incredibly visual director and an incredibly illustrative script, but there's a lot of symbolism and universal sort of themes going on that are stories that if the director did not see to do this, I guess case in point would be, if you have a script that has a very distinct relationship between two people, maybe they know each other, maybe they don't know each other, but if you have that and that's an underlying theme in your story, then to me, I think the director's first order of business, and I'm not a director, but this is what I want in the editing room, I think the director's first order of business is to realize that those people are connected and they need to set up their shots with those people in the same shot. And I'm not talking about necessarily your wide master. I'm talking about, some foreground and background. Have these people, not necessarily a flat shot or a close-up of that person, but have a little bit of infringement, maybe over the shoulder or something like that. To me, that sets up a very subtle idea with your audience that, yes, these people are connected. We don't have to necessarily say it. We already feel it. And the only thing I'm going to go on about that is I work for Michael Mann, and he's really, really challenging to work for. But he is incredibly good at this visual directing thing, and he really does understand story. And I think that the first time that I really understood how much that mattered was in the movie The Insider, where he put that camera on Russell Crowe's back like a backpack, and half an hour into that movie, you felt the weight of the world on your shoulders, as an audience, just like Russell Crowe did. And that story was about a whistleblower, about tobacco. I mean, come on. But what it really was about is a man who's having to make incredible decisions to keep, his family afloat. That's what the story is. The script is about the whistleblower. The story is about a man who's like getting crushed by all of the things that are on his, shoulders that he's having to keep afloat.
Last question, I'm afraid.
When you have a scene and it's just like not working or something's just not
It's
functioning
always
right.
working on Breaking Bad. What are you talking about?
Not Breaking Bad, that's some other show. But I mean, what's your way of kind of addressing that and trying to be as sensitive as possible, obviously, because like either the writer or somebody's going to have their feelings hurt by you saying whatever you did's not working. What's your kind of process in figuring out how to bring it to them to say,
I hate
made
that.
it better or something?
This is mine.
This is yours.
Yeah, sorry.
All right.
You know what? You just have to, I mean, you mean just as far as editing wise or how to handle it in the room?
Yeah, I mean, just when you're sitting down at the edit and you're just looking at a scene or whatever, and it may not be coming out the way you want it to or you think they want it to.
Oh, okay. This is one thing that I talked to my assistant about, and I'm a firm believer of like, I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in if I hadn't worked for people that totally brought me up and taught me and let me sit in and explain things to me. So I like to pay that forward. And what I do with my assistant, any assistant I'm working with, although right now I'm working with a fantastic one named Chris McCaleb, he's awesome. But what I talk to him about a lot of times and what I tell him to do is when he's cutting for me, he will bring me a scene and I'll look at it and I'll be like, okay, this part, and usually when you do this, you have to watch the dailies yourself. You can't just pass this on. You've got to it's almost like doing double work as an editor, but that's what you have to do to help other people, move along. But he will say to me, I will say to him, okay, I saw that really cool close-up of Walt where he turns his head. I want you to try and use that. And his first answer to me was, well, I can't because of blah, blah, blah. And I said, here's the deal. Nobody wants to hear I can't or why. No producer wants to hear that. No director wants to hear that. What they want to hear is, you know what, let me take another look at it and let me see what I can do. Even though, and you know that you're going to have a tough time doing it, is that you kind of have to that's the job in the room, and that's something that you just have to learn. It has to be modeled to you by other editors, and you just have to kind of learn how it's one thing to be able to cut footage. And you know what? You have to be really talented at that, but you also have to learn how to manage all these personalities and manage the room. The other thing that I do, I'm sorry, I should finish that thought. I would tell him, look, I know that maybe you can't do what I want you to do, but you have to tell me that you're going to try. And you have to make an effort at it because that's what people want to see. If you can get them to trust you as an editor, they will believe you when you tell them after another try that you're having a tough time doing it. But they don't want to hear that you can't because they haven't seen you try to do it. So you got to do that. Another thing that I was going to mention, because I'm not quite sure if I'm answering your question, but a lot of times I'll be working with a scene and I'll be like, this is so not good. It doesn't happen often. And I'm not trying to be conceited. It just means that a lot of times I don't get myself into such a bad problem that I absolutely have to start over. But sometimes I do. And I'll be like, this is horrible, horrible, horrible. And my best advice to that, and I hate to give my tricks away, but I'm going to tell you, I think one of the best things to do is to look at your footage and find more than one way in. What that does for me is it keeps everything fresh and it keeps me looking at footage in a different way. I think that's one of the things that's helped me on Breaking Bad and on other shows, is helped me okay, yeah, the director may start with this moving shot into here, and that's what they want to start with, it. But you know what? Challenge yourself to find another way. Doesn't mean that you'll always use it, but it will show you how to start looking at your footage in a very different way so you're not necessarily led by the nose, because you know what? That director might not be right. I mean, on Breaking Bad, that's happened plenty of times where, you know what? I knew that they wanted to do that, but I'm going to do this, and I'm going to show it to you and see, what you think. And a lot of times they would say, I never thought about that, but that works. So that's what does that answer your question?
Totally. No, that was
Okay.
great. Thank you so much.
Okay, cool.
Well, I really,
gonna show that?
no, I really want to do this. If I can get the projector up, I know we're a couple of minutes late, but if we can get the projector working,
I did not
I
do
want
this.
to close this out because this is so good. The one of the great things about doing a hit television series is that everybody's doing a parody. And
that the parody, that Variety said that has trumped, this parody has trumped the Hitler one.
yeah, well,
That's what Variety said today. I was shocked. That's what
All
they
right.
said.
I got to wait for this thing to kind of get a little bit brighter. For those of you who did not see last Sunday's episode, this is going to mean absolutely nothing to you. But for
Spoiler.
those of you who did see last Sunday's episode, I think you'll enjoy this. Let's see, we got volume, I hope.
And I didn't
We
do this
got,
one.
yes, we do. And let's play it and enjoy. Ladies and gentlemen, give our guest tonight, Kelley Dixon, a welcome for 6 brilliant seasons of Breaking Bad.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You guys are so nice.